Hi everyone, welcome back to the Lightworkers. Today we have Supriya with us, and she is a coach and a teacher, and she's here with us to share her wisdom and tell us more about her story and how she became a Lightworker. So, welcome Supriya. How are you?
Thank you, Anisha. Thank you very much for having me on your podcast.
Um, so we're so welcome, and I'm so excited for you to share your story and tell us more about what you do. So why don't you start with an introduction, maybe different modalities, how you got into becoming a light worker, and just any things that you've learned over the
Right,
years.
right. Professionally, I have been a journalist for almost 13 years. I started back in 2008, 2009, roughly around at that time. So I'm a trained photographer, journalist, editor, and but I've simultaneously been a psychology enthusiast. So if not media and communication, I would have definitely picked up psychology back then, but that time maybe that was required. So I had done that for 13 years, and I will tell you later how it actually is helping me in this work eventually. So,
Mm,
in hindsight, it's a good thing. So, I started my healing journey, my personal healing journey back in 2018, when almost 6 years back. And I had just, I was just going through a very difficult phase personally. And because I had been reading psychology, and by that time I had already started reading about regression therapy and how different therapies work, I was already reading because I liked reading it. So I somehow by that time knew that at this stage I will not be able to deal with this on my own.
mm,
So I started looking for someone who can actually help me in the process of healing and getting, getting out of that situation mentally and emotionally. And that's how I came across Dr. Gaurav Dekar. He's based in Delhi, and that time he was doing offline sessions. So it was pre-COVID era. So I started working with him as a client, as a patient, and that's how I got introduced to the world of therapy as it looks like practically, not from just from the books, but
mm.
how it had I had my experience back then, 2018, and because I was already inclined towards psychology. I was already inclined towards understanding how human mind works and how emotions affect you. Eventually, with my therapy, alongside my therapy, and a little push from my coach, Dr. Gaurav Dekar, I actually started learning inner child work, and I have and that's how I got into inner child work almost 2.5 years back.
Mm.
And I love inner child work. Like, I have tried all the modalities. I have tried past life regression. I have tried
Yeah.
inner child. I've tried well, as a client. So I've tried intergenerational work. I have tried all different kind of modalities. But I love inner child because I feel that it brings a very different kind of softness and compassion to the entire process. Like it's like how
Right.
you deal with a child. You're constantly dealing with children. There's so many children within you who are seeking your attention constantly. And the beautiful part is that they're throwing tantrums all the time, and that's what your triggers and your reactions are. And that's just cry for attention.
Mm.
And the moment you give them the attention, the moment you give them the love, you see them transform. Like I have seen it with myself, and I'm seeing it with clients now every day, and it's just beautiful. So I was like, even if someone asks me, I said, even if I obviously I'm going to learn different modalities over the years, but I think if you ask me, inner child is going to be the one which will be always be my like first love when it comes to therapy and healing work, especially healing childhood trauma and past trauma.
Wow. So, like you said, Supriya, earlier, you were the seeker and you were going through all of these healing modalities and,
Yeah,
maybe gaining benefits. So how did you so everybody, who is on the healing journey cannot really become a teacher as such, right? So how did
Right.
that jump happen, and was it organic for you, difficult, or something that you were already called to do?
So as I said, I'll tell you how my training of journalism. So I have been a writer for a very long time. I used to write on Indian heritage, Indian culture. So I am very much adapt to how cultures, condition you over the years. So I understand that from a journalistic perspective as well.
Mm,
And that really helped me when I made this transition, like how different cultures make you the person you are. So that's one aspect. Another aspect is the thing that they really teach you in journalism is to ask the right question, right? And with almost more than a decade of experience, uh, I think the only feedback I get from my fellow coaches and my coach is that you always ask piercing question.
mm,
You always ask the right question. I said, I think that's something that I've been trained and it's just ingrained in me now as a person. And that really helps because sometimes it's important to ask those questions so that the client can actually reach where they can heal,
mm,
right? So, uh, and as far as this transition is concerned, I have been contemplating over this idea because as I said, I've been a psychology reader for the longest time. I think I was 20 when I started reading about psychology. I actually started reading with psychology school books.
mm,
So something I could not do in school, I started doing at 20,
mm,
and then I progressed to different, international authors, and how different aspects of regression. Actually read a lot about regression back then before getting into therapy. So it kind of felt very organic when I actually made the transition
mm,
because I was already in therapy, so I knew how the process works. So it wasn't like that I was a student of psychology and I jumped into
mm,
doing sessions, taking sessions, but rather it was the other way. So
mm,
it felt very, very organic to me, especially in a child work. And meditation, yes. So I am an advanced level meditation teacher as well.
mm,
And again, meditation, I started as a personal practice when I was 21 because I just liked it. I just liked, playing subtle music and just sitting silent. I've been an introvert for the longest time. So I loved
mm.
sitting in silence, play subtle music and just close my eyes. And that eventually went into, deeper meditation. And I tried different kind of meditation, chanting, chakra. And then I said, okay, then just why not share it with others? And that's how I decided to become a meditation coach. You want to call it coach, facilitator, teacher. These are just labels.
Yeah. So, Supriya, just delving a little deeper into, what meditation is. Because, we have different definitions, and
Yeah.
sometimes people also maybe change it according to, how it suits them. But according to you, what does it mean? And, like what are the different kinds that you just mentioned? You said you practice, you've learned various kinds.
Right. So, okay. So I would say meditation is like love. There is no one fixed definition,
Mm,
right? If you ask someone what is love, someone will say, I don't know, companionship, someone will say respect, someone will say understanding, someone will say something else. I think there is no need to have a fixed definition when it comes to meditation. It's just the more, like, it's so silent meditation is one thing, right? In Hindi, we call it dhyan, right? That's dhyan, we call it. But I think if I have to put it in one line, I would say that the deeper understanding you get of yourself, the process of
mm,
understanding yourself deeper and deeper would be meditation, right?
mm,
Now there is another thing. People say that there are certain things which are meditative in nature, right? There's a difference between both. Like how
Mm.
we say certain things are therapeutic in nature, but they are not therapy. Similarly, there are certain things which may be meditative in nature, but they may not be meditation, because
Mm.
it's like going into your head. It's like
Mm.
going into your if I say in a very neurological neurobiological terms, going into your prefrontal cortex, like becoming aware of yourself. So things that are therapeutic in nature, things that are meditative in nature, if you really look at it, let's say shopping, traveling, they're more body work, right?
Mm.
That's more body related stuff. But when you go more consciously, like even in therapy, what we do, we actually go to those parts and become more aware of them, right?
Mm.
Become more aware of the events that have happened to us in the past. That's what we do in therapy. And then we see where it is in the body, and then we do the body work, and then we do the breath
Right.
work, right? Similarly is meditation.
Mm.
So things may
Mm.
be meditative in nature. They may have, obviously, they're still going to have some effect on you,
Mm. Mm.
because your body is attuned to, let's say, if I enjoy chopping, right? While I'm chopping, my body will still have some effect from that.
Right.
But when I sit in meditation, when I do specific centered meditations, they will have different kind of.
So then, Supriya, sometimes, if we get into our head, it's not a pleasant experience, right? So
Yeah.
how do you, what is the self, and like, what does it really mean to know yourself? Like, is it a good experience always, or, can we make it like good, or how does it work?
Again, Anisha, it's like we are judging ourselves.
Mm.
What is good and what is bad,
Mm.
right? Like,
Right.
how do you decide that? Yes, for you, it may feel this. Yes, it's going to be uncomfortable for sure. Always tell that. Healing is not,
Mm.
it's not cakewalk. It is
Yeah.
not for the faint-hearted. Let me
Yeah.
say that out loud. But yes, once you get into a healing journey, and if you get the right person along with you, the transformation that you're going to receive is it's going to be beyond words. Let me put it that
Mm.
way.
Mm.
So yes, it is not in happy side. Yes, because see what happens in trauma, because let's say something happened to us when we were 6 years old, 7 years old, and that age now, our brain is not completely developed.
Mm.
So it's already very overwhelming because we can't make sense of it.
Right.
Like we are biologically incapable. So our prefrontal cortex is not developed. The
Mm.
part of the brain that we need to make sense of things, to understand, analyze, put logic to it. So what we do, we dissociate with it on a body level.
Mm.
Like still in our body somewhere, but we keep it like logged, and it triggers once in a while. Sometimes
Right.
you're like, I don't know what is happening, why I'm behaving like. These are just triggers based on the trauma stored in the body, but we still dissociate with certain parts of our body. So
Mm.
when we actually go to that body part, when we actually go to that event, like I'm just working with a client of mine, and they have had a very painful experience when they were about 13. Still, I mean, still much more mature than a 7-year-old. But to go back to that incident, it's taking a lot of work. And I
Mm.
said, I know it's difficult, but please just let's go there once and grieve it as much as required, and then release it. Because the thing is, Anisha, that you can't release a trauma until you feel it.
Mm. Mm.
There
Mm.
is no other way, no matter which modality you go. You go
Mm.
to family constellation, you go to intergenerational work, you go to breath work, body work, they will all come down to you becoming aware of it, feeling it, and then releasing it.
Mm.
Because that's how body works. That's the body's mechanism.
Right. So then, Supriya, in this whole process, how important is faith for you, like in your healing journey?
Faith is very,
Mm.
I think that's the first thing that you need to put out right there when you begin your healing journey. In fact, I just made a post today on Instagram where I talked about this inner child of mine that I discovered when I started my healing journey. So this was a 7-year-old version of me, and she was having this plethora of emotions and so many things for a 7-year-old to process and
Yeah.
understand. So because understand, when a 7-year-old has gone through something, they don't have the capacity to intellectualize it or to understand it. So when, as a 28-year-old or 29-year-old, I got to meet that part, so now I also have to make the sense of it.
Yeah.
There is a lot that needs to be done. And so this inner child of mine, we met this inner child, we worked on this inner child, and over the years, whenever I would do a regression for myself with
Mm.
anyone, 60 to 70% of the time, same inner child will show up.
Right.
Kept showing up in different sessions, uh, which made me realize that the wound is so deep that
Right.
it requires again work again and again. And then what happens in the process, because these wounds are very deep, you have been carrying them for decades, it takes their own time. So in the process, what happens, like, what am I doing? Is it even working? Right? Like, am I
Yeah.
doing the right modality, or am I just getting too much into it? All sorts of thoughts are going to come, and it's okay, by the way, to have your doubts. The idea is
Mm-hmm.
to not sit with them and then put your faith out there, through the process, to your coach, and to any God, if you may believe in it, or
Mm.
the universe, I think. So these three things, and then, of course, yourself, beyond everything.
And then, Supriya, how important is it for a person to maybe have a coach? Because I feel like some people feel like, uh, uh, they don't need that external help or they don't need that regular help, because they can deal with it themselves. And I just want to know from you how, like, what are the benefits of having a coach and different kinds, like, it could be a meditation coach, it could be like a business coach.
So, having a coach is very important because, see, when you are dealing with something, right? Let's say when you're dealing with an overwhelming emotion, or you're having something which is very difficult in nature, let's say.
Right.
So that is not your current adult version. That's an inner child. That's a
Mm.
past version that is coming out. And for that to be able to deal with that version, to hold space for you. Like, I tell you honestly, I have all the audios in the world. Like, I create audios for my clients,
Mm.
right? So I have all the audios. Uh, I have, so we use different techniques within our session. So I create audios for them also in case they need to do it, outside the session as well sometimes. And my coach has also sent me certain audios. But sometimes the emotions are so overwhelming that I tell my coach that, I need to do it in a session, so that you hold space for me in that moment and I don't have to do any kind of work, right? So let's
Yeah.
say if I have to do cord cutting, the energetic cord cutting, there are n number of audios on the internet. There are I mean, there's this plethora of content available out there,
Yeah.
but that requires me to put in the effort while also dealing with an inner child, right? So any which way, that can get very exhausting energetically also. And
Right.
that is why a coach is required. And then, of course, see, a coach is a profession. So they're constantly understanding different modalities. They're constantly getting updated with the newest research. They are, and then because they're working with different individuals, they will know how to maneuver where.
Mm.
So if I
Right.
go for, let's say, if I go for a recorded, I don't know, regression. I mean,
Yeah.
there's nothing like that, a recorded regression though, but let's say for the sake of an example, and we don't know how the inner child that's going to come up, we don't know how that inner child is going to behave. We don't know how the inner child, what the inner child would need in that moment, and that is where your coach comes in.
Yeah.
That is where a therapist will come in and say, "Oh, okay, no, let's just not do this. Let's do that." And that's what
Mm.
we do in sessions also. Like mid
Mm.
session, we change a lot of things.
Yeah.
A lot of times when I enter a session as a coach, as a therapist, I think, like, I always create this structure because I'm I'm a structure. I like to have structure. Like you can see the post-its behind me. I like to structure a lot, but a lot of times, like easily 20 to 40% of the times, whatever I have decided, the flow will not happen.
Mhm. Yeah.
So then I'll have to change in the moment, right?
Mm.
So I think for someone to hold space for you
Mm.
is very important, and I think why to do it alone? I think just a social conditioning. We
Yeah.
think that if we are taking help, we are weak.
Right.
I mean, that's what that has been conditioned to us, and that is also we work in a child work. We do a lot of work on conditioning because it is
Mm.
not just traumas, but also how you have been brought up. So they can also be your limitations.
Yes. Yeah. And then when you say holding a safe space, Supriya, what,
Yeah.
like, I mean, we understand that for maybe somebody who doesn't know, what does it really mean to hold that safe space and why is it important?
So let's say holding space for someone would mean to give them an environment where they can let go of everything, knowing that there is someone
Mm.
A who is not judgmental, at least for that period, because see, at the end of the day, therapists are also human, so they will
Yeah.
waver. But at least in the frame of the sessions, they are not judging, so they'll be able to bring out aspects of themselves which they are also ashamed of, maybe.
Yeah.
So creating a space where you can be your own, while at the same time knowing that someone is there helping you maneuvering the entire,
Mm. Yeah.
like it's like creating a place where you can be yourself, like the
Mm.
worst part of you also feels accepted.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's that's what safe means. Mm.
Yeah, like where you feel safe that I can be myself even if I feel this is not right, but someone is saying, okay, we are not saying this is right, we are still saying this is wrong, but let's just see what it is about. Let's just
Mm.
see where it is coming from. Instead of creating a judgment around it, instead of creating a mindset around it,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Let's just see where is this coming from.
Mm. So
Let's talk
then,
about it.
yeah. Yeah. So then clients who maybe then do not have faith or do not trust the process that you're taking them through or don't know much about it, do you see that they also end up getting results or have you seen resistance or different kinds at different stages?
So resistance shows up for sure.
Mm.
And resistance shows up even for people who have faith. Let me tell you that.
Mm.
Why? Because that's how body works. So, if you understand from an evolution perspective, because we, kind of evolved in jungles, anything which is foreign in nature, anything which will lead to any kind of change is perceived as danger by the lowest part of the brain,
Right.
which is your animal brain. So it will always resist change. I always tell clients that, you are going to get fever. You're going to get a sore throat. These are such common things. You'll be like, oh God, I don't want to do this today. I don't have the energy. And
Mm,
then obviously you have to decide. And then I tell them, okay, just come for the session. We may not do regression. We will do something fun,
right.
right? So, a resistance is going to come up for both the cases. So now people who have faith, then you deal with them differently. People who
Mm,
do not have faith in the process, I'm still able to come across uh, majority of it, because I think people who any which way come for session, they have some amount of faith, or at least will,
well, yeah.
uh, to heal. So let's say if they still have, like, have their apprehensions about it, I always say that inner child is a process that
Right.
is going to give you results, because it's just a soft process, just a giving process.
Yeah.
You know, uh, there is no wrong way of doing inner child,
Yeah.
because, and I think that's the beautiful, and that's why I love the process so much. Like, no matter how you do it, you're going to reach your destination eventually.
But Supriya, with inner child work, like you're saying, like for a person who doesn't understand what really happens, so I mean, just to make it simpler for them, so we meet the inner child and then what happens? Like what's the healing process? So just meeting is enough, or there is some integration that happens in the body, or how does the healing
No,
work?
yes, integration happens. Then we see, so obviously every inner child is going to come along with an emotion, right? So it could be anger, it could be sadness, it could be anxiety, it could be shame, it could be, any sort of difficult emotion, obviously, because any which way at the baseline, that is what we're dealing with.
Right.
No one is going to come to therapy to say, oh, I'm very happy.
Yeah.
So, we, any which way are going to deal with a difficult emotion. So we do identify where it is stored in the body. So, it's a combination. So regression is to identify. So first we identify the emotion, and then we see where is this coming from. That
Mm.
is where our regression comes into the play,
Right.
right? And then when we meet the inner child, that is when you know what do you need to do with this child. A lot of
Right.
times we replay the entire scenario and we change the end result.
Mm.
So let's say, for example, it's a very small example that I'm giving you. Let's
Yeah.
say, and that will also uh, kind of give you an idea how small things can lead to, bigger emotions. So this client of mine came in and said that, I never get what I want. That was the baseline. I never get what I want. And obviously there's sadness about it.
Mm.
So I said, okay, let's just, kind of figure out, let's just investigate into it. Where is this coming from? And we regressed to a part where this client was, I think, about 6 years old.
Mm.
And they were out in the market with their parents. And this client wanted a toy. And the parents could not give it at that time because of financial reasons. Okay. But so when the client came to me, the client was about 35 years old. This happened when they were six. So almost 3 decades,
Mm.
this thought has been with them. So because the client was so young at that time, they could not understand that, my parents can't do it, even if they wanted to,
Mm.
right? So the 6 year thought, oh, you're not giving me what I want. So I never get what I want, right?
Mm.
And this is the thought line that they created, and they carried it along with them, right?
Mm.
So, I'll come back to your question again, but digressing a little bit. So, there's a thing called confirmation bias in our brain.
Mm.
So, when emotionally we believe on something, our brain starts to scan our environment to prove it right.
Mm.
So, now I have a statement, I never get what I want. So now my brain will look for instances, will look for evidence. So more events are going to happen where I will not get what I want. And that's like a cycle, like a loop.
Mm.
So I have a thought because of which this event happened. Now, because this event has happened, this thought is going to get more solidified
Mm.
and then it goes into loop. So then we break that loop either by actually I have actually got my clients to buy things that they could not buy as a child and then present it to that inner child.
Mm.
Like the first thing that I bought when I was going through my journey was a Barbie doll.
Mm.
So these are very subtle things. Sometimes you'll have to just uh, connect with the child and see what they want, right? Sometimes it could be as small as a hug. For some people, even a hug as a child would have been difficult, so they
Yes.
would want that. So it really varies case to case.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you do obviously do the adult adult inner child integration. So what you do is like you bring in other members who were involved in that incident and then have a confrontation and discussion, and that's the process that we follow. And then we
Mm-hmm.
come back to the body part and then release it using breath work.
Mm.
There's just one aspect of it.
Yeah, yeah. And then you just talked about confirmation bias, Supriya. So does that really mean then thinking and thinking similar thoughts many times or focusing on something really does bring about a change in the brain?
It does bring physical changes, but here there is a catch, Anisha. I know
Yeah.
this might be leading to affirmations and all that stuff, but again, when I said so, I used the word emotion in there. If you remember,
Mm.
I said when you emotionally, like attach to
Yeah.
a sentence. So let's say when we do affirmation, we may not be emotionally attached to them because there is a part of
Right.
us which is saying that, oh no, this is bullshit, right? Sorry, pardon my
Exactly.
language. But so that's why affirmations don't work a lot of time because
Yeah.
there's an
Yeah.
there's an inner child within you who's saying, no, this is not true.
Yeah.
So that is why working with your emotions is very important. That is why if affirmations are not working for you, you'll have to see which is that inner child which is refusing to believe in this.
Mm.
The confirmation bias works largely when things are very deeply ingrained in your subconscious and not conscious. It doesn't
Yeah,
work
exactly.
with the conscious brain. These things, any which way, are based like works more with the subconscious and the unconscious parts of the brain.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I just wanted that clarity because that's what I thought. Like some people really feel like, just saying something without emotionally, tapping into the
No,
charge of it. And that, yeah,
so that may happen again, but it will take a lot of time.
time. Mm.
Like it's like hitting a nail constantly. Eventually, at some point is going to give you the result. It's like trying to you know uh, nail a screw with a hammer and with a drill. That's the difference.
All right.
So when you do with the drill machine, that's where your regression work is. The result is going to be different, right? And
Yeah,
more sustainable.
yeah. So then, Supriya, then everybody who comes to you, can everyone be helped
Yeah,
at the same time? Yeah.
yes,
Mm.
yes. Because see, any which way, uh, we all carry something from our past, right? We all are carrying something or the other.
Mm.
Like I'm yet to come across someone, even like even the people who say, I had the most perfect childhood. Uh, Actually, they are the ones who then when they come into sessions, when we actually do regression, because a lot of times, I'm not saying all the time, but most of the times, they are the ones who are actually dissociated with the most
Mm.
with those parts of themselves. So then we make them connect. Uh, memory, I won't say memory loss, but memory fog, let's call it. A
Yeah.
lot of times people can't recall their childhood. They're like, I don't remember much from my childhood. It was a normal childhood. It's like a
Yeah.
normal thing happens, right? So everyone is carrying something or the other, and especially when things are becoming blocks for you, they definitely have a hook in the park.
Mm. Mm.
And also, if you want to, let's say, go to the next level in terms of maybe your career, in terms of just how you generally feel or want to feel, and if let's say it's like breaking that feeling, if there's something that's stopping you to go to the next level,
Right.
that can also be that can also have a hook in your path. It's like, let's say for example, someone is earning, let's say in INR, roughly about 20 lakhs a year.
Mm.
Okay. And their aim is to earn about 50 lakhs a year in rupees. And no matter how much they're trying, it's not happening, right? Uh, they even went ahead, did the certifications, maybe did an advanced course, something or the other. And when you work with this person, that may go back to one sentence they may have heard from an elder, which says that, 20 lakhs a month is more than enough. I don't think so. People should earn more than that. That's just a statement given by someone who they may feel that they look up to them or they have
Mm.
some sort of influence on them. And that statement got stuck in their head.
Mm.
So then you meet that version of them and tell them that, there's no fixed criteria. Money is liquidity. It's very fluid in nature, so it doesn't really matter.
Mm.
So it
Mm.
can
Mm.
be a small thing as a sentence that you hear as a child also, or a younger version of you.
Right. And we tend to absorb it because at that moment we feel that's the truth or that's what's bringing us familiarity or safety. And so that's why we absorb certain things.
Yeah, so a lot of times I have seen people who do not go beyond a certain level of success is to be relevant to their peers.
Mm.
Like, family loyalty to the system. So no one in the family is doing that. So if I do, I will be the odd one out,
Yeah.
right? And that's very scary to the body,
Mm.
because loneliness again comes to survival, safety. Because in jungle, if you were alone, you will die. That was a
Right.
simple rule of the jungle. So now we are out physically from there, but mentally we are still there. Our body
Mm.
works like. So then you have to tell your body, you'll have to tell that part of you that, you're not five anymore. You
Mm.
don't need other people for survival. You need people for companionship. You need people for relationships.
Mm.
But don't let it stop your success or your
Yeah.
transformation. A lot of people may not even heal because they think that, if I heal, then how will I, you know, stay relevant or survive in my current environment?
Yeah.
Because then obviously you can't think the same way. It doesn't
Yeah.
happen,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I think today is what, Wednesday, right? So Monday only, which was what, 10. This client of mine said that, if I earn beyond an amount, I feel that I may lose my family.
Mm. Yeah, because one of my questions is going to be, do people come, or have you seen that certain people are addicted to suffering? But now when you look at it from a family lens, it could really be, some sort of
Yeah,
loyalty maybe to their group, to the
yeah,
family,
yeah.
and it could be so much more.
Yeah, so I remember once I was in a course and there was this demo happening, and this person said they kept on uh, falling sick again and again because every time they fell sick, they got the attention from the mother. So there's this child which is saying that, oh, if I have to get attention from mommy, I'll have to fall sick because otherwise she's not paying attention. So people go to that extreme on a very unconscious level also, you know, that if I'm all right, no one is going to love me, or no one is at least going to show that they love me. There will be no showcase of love. So yeah, it feels sad, but that's how it is.
And so then, Supriya, once a person probably has gone through this journey, like what changes do they see? Are they able to think differently? What happens in the system, like, once this probably healing has happened?
So one of the things that happens is that they start looking it from an adult lens
Mm,
instead of being see what happens. Our reactions are going to be from our previous version. Like if
right,
you are if you let's say in this present moment where we are right now, right? If you say something to me in a language I don't understand, I'm not going to react. I don't understand it. I don't have any relevance to it. I don't have any recollection of it. Neither my body nor my brain understands it.
right.
But at the same time, let's say someone says something, or something remotely similar happened that may have disturbed me in the past. And if that part is not healed, it's
Mm,
going to trigger me,
yeah,
right? Like, how can you say like that? This is unfair, and etc. It could be anything for that matter. Sometimes we have these reactions, and we're like, later we think like, why did I even do that?
yeah.
But it happens because, I mean, there's an entire information pyramid, like how information travels in our brain. There's an entire system there. But
Mm,
I mean, without even going into that kind of a detail, uh, it's like anything which has an emotional charge, your body is going to react to it first and then think about it later.
right. Mm,
So we neutralize that emotional charge so that the information can actually reach the upper parts of the brain, where you actually can take a pause and think, is this even relevant enough to have any kind of reaction or response?
mm,
That is what happens when you heal. So let's say in the past, if someone would have called someone, I don't know, let's say I'll take my example for that matter. If someone would have called me, maybe comment on my skin color.
yeah,
Okay. So because I have a past incident where, you know, it became a conversation, I would feel bad to a certain point in my life till I healed that part.
right.
Now that I understand that A, skin color has nothing to do with who you are as a person. B, people who actually comment on anyone's skin color are troubled souls themselves. They need healing because they can't see beyond it.
Mm,
So then
mm,
you have this compassion or empathy, I don't know what you want to call it, towards the other people also, that I understand. I understand where you're coming from, and but I'm not going to take it. So
Right.
you have this kind of nice energetic boundary also, where you don't
Mm,
absorb a lot of things from others. Then you're like, I
mm,
don't
mm, mm,
like. I have a body type which keeps on fluctuating in weight. Okay,
mm,
and now I think a lot of people around me know, but till the time they would not know, they would come and say, "Oh, you know, you have lost weight," and they would give, "Oh God, you have gained weight." And trust me, after a couple of years in therapy, I would have a straight face on both the things. It's like, okay, you lost weight. Okay, you've
mm,
gained weight. Okay, because I understand its body is going to go through a lot of stuff, right? Uh,
mm.
it's going to react to the weather. It's going to react to what is happening around you. If there's, uh, let's say, if there's a lot of emotional up and down going, even within the family, if you're not able to sleep properly, there may be bloating. There are many factors
Yeah,
that affect your body weight and the entire thing. So now it just does not waver me at. But maybe in the past it would have affected me a lot.
yeah,
Like, oh God, this person has said I have gained weight. Now I have to lose weight. Then I will, look for, I don't know, some stupid diet.
yeah, yeah. And so this actually goes very organically into the, flows into the next question of having boundaries, with people, with clients, and with the in the work that you do. So how do you create this protective shield around yourself? Is there a practice, or is there like, are there certain rituals? What do you do regularly
Yes,
to,
yes,
yeah,
yes. I do have certain rituals that I do. Obviously, because we are humans at the end of the day, so that's the baseline. And because we have a tendency to, absorb
yeah,
whether we are meeting people offline or online doesn't matter. So I have certain rituals that I follow. One is what I call the bubble exercise, where I just, because I've been meditating for some time. It takes me, let's say, a couple of seconds to do that. Earlier, it
mm,
would have taken a couple of minutes. So I just create an energetic bubble around me and put the intention that anything which is not connected to me or is beneficial to me or my higher self
yeah,
cannot enter this bubble. Anything, anything which is harmful in nature just bounces back.
yeah,
That's just one thing. That then obviously there are other, you release through writing, journaling, breath work is there. So you do obviously, despite doing, your, let's say, your protection bubble and everything, you still are going to absorb certain things. Like, there's a
yeah,
crack
yeah,
somewhere at times. So then you release it. But even if you have absorbed something, uh, despite
yeah,
not, because a lot of times what also happens, and you call it law of attraction, you call it law of vibration, but I have seen it in my case at least. A lot of my clients, uh, I would say most of my clients, but a lot of my clients are, they when they come up to me with problems, I see them as the previous version.
yeah,
I like, oh, this I have worked on. So sometimes, let's say, if that inner child wakes up within me, that may attract something, right? So maybe the current version of me is like very neutral, and if an inner child gets charged, then I may kind of, attract.
right, right. So it's not just the client's inner child, but also our own inner child. Yeah. Mm,
Yes, yes, of course, our inner child
mm,
is.
mm.
So then I have, like, using your physical environment as a way of, um, you know, creating boundaries, especially when you start a session.
Yeah,
So a lot of times, like, how it happens, like you're about to enter a session and half an hour before the session, you'll be like, no, I don't want, I want to sleep. you know,
Yeah.
especially if it's a morning session.
Yeah.
You're like, no, no, I want to sleep. And then you know, okay, this is not you, this is an inner child. So then you
Mm-hmm.
deal with that inner child. You said, okay, we'll deal with it later. And then what I do, I use physical boundaries. Let's say I go outside the door of my room, and or maybe, let's say, how there are partitions on the floor because
Right.
of the tile and everything. So I said, okay, when I step outside of this boundary, I step as my current version, and my inner children are going to be here, and I will come back to them. So I'm not
Mm,
abandoning anything, but maybe for the next an hour and a half, I will keep them aside, maybe play some music and tell them, just be engaged with this
mm.
till I come back. It's
Wow,
like, it's
that's
like,
beautiful.
it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like literally like a parent dealing with a child. Like,
Mm,
like mommy is coming in half an hour, you just do some drawing kind of a thing.
yeah. And that works?
It works, yeah. At least for me, it's working. I won't say 100% times because
Yeah.
again, we are all
Mm,
humans. If there's a part of me, because any which way, matlab, if I have a part of me which I've been carrying for a long time and still needs some healing, it may still get a little bit of charge
yeah.
from the client's story
Mm-hmm.
and still, say, no, I need attention right away,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
Yeah. And as a child would throw tantrum and you don't know if they'll continue to color
Yeah.
in peace or not. So, yeah.
So why, so while we talk about boundaries with other people, it's equally important to create boundaries with your own inner children as well.
Mm, yeah.
But that's going to be a little tricky one. Of course, it's not going to
Yeah.
be as clear and as clear and crisp how you can do with the outside world.
Yeah, yeah. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, we are almost at the last segment of the interview. So, yeah. So why don't you tell us a little
Okay.
bit about, what motivates Supriya apart from, the healing work or, being a light worker, what else do you do and, what brings you joy?
I love to travel. I love to travel. I paint uh, occasionally. Especially, I use painting, especially when there are very overwhelming emotions within me. So
Right.
art helps me. I am a writer, so I love to write. Earlier, I used to write on Indian heritage. Now I use the same skills to write about trauma and mental health.
Hmm.
So apart from that, yes, I love to travel because I used to travel for work earlier a lot. So I love to travel.
Hmm.
Cooking maybe once in a while, but I think I love to chop.
Hmm.
So you can give me any amount of vegetables to chop.
Yeah.
So I do that. Then I have a dog.
Yeah.
So I spend time with him. We take afternoon naps together sometimes when the uh, schedule allows.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I think when you're in this healing, I won't. I don't know if business is the right word, but healing world, I think it just become a part of you eventually,
Yeah.
right? So it's like you don't need a separate kind of a environment to do things because yes, I mean yes, of course, sometimes you still need to come out of that mode of a
Yeah.
coach or a therapist. You can't be that all the time, and that was told to me by my coach a couple of years ago that you can't be a therapist all the time because that's going to be exhausting for you.
Yeah.
See, what happens is that especially when we make this transition, we feel that because we have understood healing, uh, we have we have experienced our own inner children. getting healed and seeing the transformation that comes along with it. And because there is a deep desire to help people,
Mm.
you want to help everyone around you also, right? So then you
Right.
start seeing everyone's inner children also. And in the process, sometimes you make yourself suffer because then you're
Yeah.
trying to understand everyone. That is something also you don't have to do. You don't need to do all the time.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I have understood over the years is that you can help people who are ready to accept help. Don't try
Mm.
going out helping everyone because
Mm.
when people are not ready, I don't think so. It's a wise thing to push people out. That's another kind
Right.
of trauma you're giving them. Then, like in a way, you're traumatizing them and telling them, "Oh, go heal, go and work on yourself." Then where is the acceptance that we are talking about?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yes, there is boundaries that will come in place then where you'll be like, okay, this is who you are. I accept the way you are, but this may not work for me. This may work for me, and if it is not working for me, there that is where I draw my boundary,
Right.
right? So
Yeah. And then my most favorite question is, and also the last question, that this podcast is about miracles and hope. So in terms of working with clients over the years, what are the kind of miracles that you've seen that have really given you hope and other people hope as well? Stories of
so,
transformation. Yeah.
so I don't know how you define miracles because see, a lot of times we think that, oh, I have done this ritual, I have done this session, and now it's suddenly, showing results. But eventually, it's a lot of work that goes behind it.
Yeah.
So, like, the other day I was telling someone that uh, they were referring to something as luck, and I said that while luck has a role to play,
Mm.
don't don't put it completely on luck because that's when you're abandoning yourself and your hard work.
Right.
Like you're saying it is all about luck, then I have done some work. So miracle, I don't know if it's the right word, but yes, I believe in universe quite a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and I have seen transformations with people. I don't know if it is so there was this client of mine, and she was well to do financially and everything, but she was not able to use that for herself,
Mm.
right? So we did some work, and a couple of months later, she messaged me saying that, I have booked a BMW for myself.
Mm.
So she always had the money. It's not that she got the money, but
Right.
the idea that she can actually go out and do something for herself and take such a, prominent action was something that I was like, okay, nice, interesting,
Mm. Mm. Mm.
right? Uh, Another client of mine who was dealing with a lot of commitment stuff
Mm.
got married. So actually
Mm.
decided, went ahead and actually felt that, okay, now I can get married.
Right.
So, I mean, if you consider it uh, a
Yeah.
miracle, maybe in that client's case, yes, I can say that was a miracle. When that client told me that, okay, I'm getting married, I was like, gosh, seriously. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so yeah, that is there. Then there was this another client of mine who was contemplating separating from their partner when they came to me,
Mm.
and the reasons had nothing to do with the partner,
Right.
right? Because there was so much inside them that they were projecting onto their partner,
Mm-hmm.
and they actually went ahead. So that person actually later on told me that, I actually understand what was happening, and I've actually gotten on better terms with my in-laws, and I understand that had nothing to do with my partner, and we're
Mm.
not separate.
No.
So these are small, small things.
Yeah.
I think there are subtle moments also, like, especially when I work with clients who have lost their parents,
Mm.
and uh, when a younger version of them meet the parents,
Mm-hmm.
that those moments I would say are like miraculous in nature,
Right.
because that's just a different kind of uh, feeling, like, seeing a child who has been longing for a parent's love, and suddenly they can at least feel their presence in a
Mm.
much more realistic manner.
Right. Yeah. So the work
So
in
that,
itself. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
Mm.
as I said, the work, there will be very smaller moments when we work. Like, let's say, not just meeting let's say the dead parents or something, but even meeting younger versions of you, and especially when that younger version can actually put their trust in the adult version,
Yeah. That's a
because
big
that
one.
is the version that is wounded, right? That is the
Yeah.
version which is not able to trust anyone. So
Yeah.
if they
Yeah.
can actually trust the current version, the adult version of the client, and they are actually happy with them. So eventually, so there's this thing called integration that happens in the
Mm.
healing process. I call it the marination process.
Yeah.
So it's like you cook a vegetable and then you just let it rest for the flavors to infuse, right? I use a cooking uh, example because I used to be a food writer for a very long time, so I can
Right.
draw parallels there.
Yeah.
So it's like, you cook a vegetable, or let's say in India, rajma is a very loved dish.
Mm.
So whenever you cook rajma, if you immediately eat it, you will not get the flavor,
Yeah.
right? You have to let it rest for a couple of hours, and that's when you eat it, you'll see how the flavors change. Similarly is with healing. The When we do the session, right,
Mm.
you may
Mm.
not feel it, but when you let it sit, when you let it integrate within your body, is when you see the changes.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, people, let's say, if someone is working for me with me for, let's say, 3 months or 6 months, they may not share a lot
Yeah.
because they're constantly in the process, they're constantly in action. But once it happens, once the process is done, then after a couple of months, they will message me and say, "Oh, this has happened,
Yeah.
that has happened." There was this client of mine who was struggling to uh, do some work, like, they are an independent
Yeah.
consultant, and things. So they were finding it difficult to, pitch to clients, and, getting the work done and everything. And they worked with me for about 3 months, and nothing happened in those 3 months. I think a month and a half later, they messaged me that actually I've got this line, and we actually finished the work.
Mm.
So, in my experience, it actually happens once we are done with the session,
Right.
most of the
Got
time.
it.
Having said that, doesn't mean that it doesn't happen when we do the session, but I like to, I like people to at least give some rest and let your body absorb it. Because if
Yeah.
you're constantly doing the work, your body is not getting the time to absorb
Mm.
it.
Yeah.
That's why I don't give a lot of homework to my clients to do between the sessions. I said,
Right.
anyway, we are doing a lot of work when we
Yeah.
are meeting. So just rest, most of the time rest, until unless they have anything, they're dealing with within the week. So I don't give them a lot of work to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because a lot of work is anyways happening when they are in front of you. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much, Supriya. This was like so much information, and thank you for sharing your, advice, wisdom with all of us. And yeah, and if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
Instagram and Gmail
Perfect. Yeah.
are the two ways. So I have already shared the credentials
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah.
So
I'll put it up.
I'm quite available on Instagram
Hmm.
and quite prompt with responses. Email, obviously, I check once a day, so you
Yeah.
still have to give me 24 hours to respond. But
Yeah.
social media is more, prompt. So
Yeah.
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 And thank you so much, Anisha, for having me and giving me this platform to share whatever knowledge I have and whatever I had to share.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Supriya. And thank you, everyone. We'll be back very soon. And Supriya,
Thank you.
all the
Bye bye.
information, yeah, all the information will be in the show notes. So, yeah, anybody who wants to get in touch, they can just, check that out. Okay. Thank
Thank you
you.
so much. Bye
Bye.
bye.